Sometimes while you're practicing meditation or as the result of practicing meditation, you remember things from the past that you completely forgot. And sometimes those are emotionally charged. So when they come up in the present, you greet them with equanimity, and there's a sense of what in therapy is called catharsis, or releasing. You've heard of economizing. Well, let's start talking about equanimizing. Equanimizing means bringing equanimity, which is non-self interference, to a sensory event. So something may percolate up from your biography. You greet it with equanimity, you equanimize it, and you get a sense that it's being released. This is sort of in a sense, in the classic mode of psychotherapy. Specific biographical material has been uncovered and has been accepted and integrated, and that's catharsis. However, I would say that the bulk of the catharsis, the bulk of the integration, the bulk of the purification in the depths of our consciousness that comes about through mindfulness practice does not take the classic form of specific memories or other material percolating up. Most of it happens without us knowing that it's happening. The classic example in my case is I did a 10-day retreat in the U Ba Khin tradition, which involves sweeping the awareness through the body. About halfway through the retreat, I noticed that there was a little bit of congestion in my lung area and so forth. Nothing all that big a deal, just some slight discomfort. And I remember briefly thinking, oh, that must be the effect of all the smoke that I've put in my lungs from the last 10 years of smoking marijuana every day. There was no thought of, oh my God, I've hurt my lungs, or gee, I should stop smoking marijuana. Nothing like that at all, just this awareness. And then, the retreat went on. But when I got back, a day passed, I didn't smoke any grass. Another day passed, I didn't smoke any grass. Finally, many days passed, and I realized I just wasn't going to do it anymore. And there was no conscious decision. There was no weighing of cause and effect. There was no on the wagon, off the wagon. There was no struggle. There was no nothing. The part of my body that was enjoying getting high and the part of my body that was not enjoying being damaged apparently were allowed to talk to each other without my knowing it and come to a conclusion that radically, effortlessly, unexpectedly changed a deep-seated behavior pattern. So something happened and the subconscious rewired itself. Sometimes there can be changes that you don't even get a hint of. At least I had a hint in this case. But a lot of times you do a retreat and mostly what you're aware of at the retreat is you're physically uncomfortable, you can't concentrate, you are in emotional turmoil, you're judging yourself, you're judging others, and all that goes away only because you get sleepy. And that's mostly what your experience was. But then you leave the retreat and you discover that something in your fundamental alienation, your separation of inside and outside is gone forever. Your neighbor's been blasting the stereo half the day. You realize it used to drive you crazy, and it doesn't, and it's not going to. Changes take place. while you were doing the practice, you might not have had any hint at all that anything productive was going on. It's just you were uncomfortable, your mind was wandering. But in that environment, you created a situation where those circuits could communicate with each other and rewire themselves. I make the claim that the bulk of the transformation of the subconscious or depths of our being typically takes place unconsciously. I call it the trickle-down paradigm for working with the subconscious. We shine the flashlight of mindfulness on the surface of sensory experience, and a certain number of photons go down to the very bottom of the lake and give the circuits down there what they need to rewire themselves, with the surface either knowing very little or often knowing nothing of the rewiring process. Now, a person might well challenge this point of view, saying, well, how do you know that's happening? You're saying something happens, but we're not consciously aware of it. And I can say there are pink kangaroos in this room, but only I can see them. Could you disprove that? Well, it's non-falsifiable, so it's a meaningless statement. So a person might say, well, that the subconscious rewires itself when you're doing meditation is a meaningless statement, because how do you know that's happening if you're not aware of it? Well, you're not aware of it at the time. You don't know what's going on necessarily, but you are aware of significant, permanent, positive changes in perception and behavior after you have left the retreat, and therefore you can hypothesize that something like this is going on. We can't see electromagnetic fields, but we look at behavior on the surface and we hypothesize, okay, something like the Maxwell field equations describe what's going on. Even though we don't see it, we can hypothesize that from the effect. So we can hypothesize reasonably, I would claim, from the changes in perception and behavior that people experience from the retreat environment, that something like this rewiring is occurring.